This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome. Thank you for joining our presentation on the ABSCA disciplinary process. I'm Carol Rice, ABSCA's Code and Compliance Manager. I have overall responsibility for responding to allegations of misconduct, documenting our disciplinary procedures, and looking for opportunities to improve ABSCA's ethics and integrity program. During this presentation, I will explain the high ethical standards on which our program is based, ABSCA's disciplinary procedures, and the structure of our disciplinary boards, the types of allegations we receive, and ABSCA's ethics and integrity expectations, which include how we expect firms to respond to allegations of misconduct, the steps we take after receiving an allegation from a member firm, and lastly, I would like to provide a few ethics and integrity updates and reminders to our members. High ethical standards is a very important part of our ethics and integrity program. ABSCA's Code and Standards of Professional Conduct details the standards we expect of member auditors and member firms. It begins with compliance expectations. This includes performing social compliance audits in compliance with labor and safety laws, client codes of conduct, the ABSCA code, and also not engaging in unlawful conduct. Maintaining independence is critical when conducting social compliance audits. Members must avoid actual or perceived conflicts of interest. An important part of this requirement is not performing a social compliance audit in a facility where the member firm has provided consultancy within the preceding 2 years. Maintaining a high level of integrity means that members do not engage in unethical behaviors, such as soliciting, accepting, or facilitating any form of a bribe, and that member auditors routinely pay for meal and transportation expenses related to on-site audits. Specific integrity expectations as it relates to exam taking are outlined in ABSCA's Auditor Handbook. ABSCA expects that auditors have a minimum level of industry-specific knowledge and skills as outlined specifically in the competency framework, and that auditors participate in continuous professional development. As part of audit execution and reporting, the code sets the expectation that audits will be conducted by auditors with the correct ABSCA status and level, that supervision is provided when needed, and that the work of an audit and the conclusions are recorded accurately. There must also be transparency in the sharing of information with ABSCA, whether it's information from member firms on their ethics and integrity program or auditors responding to specific allegations of the code. And finally, the disciplinary boards use ABSCA's code as the source to decide what constitutes misconduct. ABSCA's disciplinary framework and procedures is the main reference for the processes we follow on ethics cases and the framework of our disciplinary boards. This document can be found on our website in the Ethics and Integrity section under About Us. In it, you will find the role of each board, who participates on each board, the process we follow in handling allegations of misconduct, and the possible actions the disciplinary boards may take in response to substantiated allegations of misconduct by a member auditor or a member firm which violates the ABSCA code. There are 2 disciplinary boards and an appeals board. The disciplinary board for member auditors is led by the Senior Advisor of Ethics, who is also a lawyer by trade. There is also 1 stakeholder board member, 2 member firm representatives, and 1 independent member who is also a lawyer in labor and employment. This board hears the cases related to potential auditor violation of ABSCA's code. Then the disciplinary board for member firms is led by the same Senior Advisor of Ethics. The remaining 4 members are independent from ABSCA and appointed by the ABSCA Executive Board. The disciplinary board for member firms hears cases related to potential violation of ABSCA's code by member firms. The appeals board is led by the chair of the executive board, and there are also 2 stakeholder board members who are not member firms. They hear cases that have been accepted after a member auditor has submitted a petition for appeal. And the ABSCA Executive Board will hear cases which have been petitioned for appeal by member firms. Let's look at the type of allegations we receive and then follow a process through. Allegations are possible violation of ABSCA's code. All allegations received by ABSCA are considered unsubstantiated until they go through the ABSCA disciplinary procedure. Even if the member firm has substantiated the allegation, it is the disciplinary board who will decide whether the code was violated and the resulting sanction, which may impact the auditor's membership status. We're going to follow the process for allegations received against member auditors which are in scope for disciplinary board review. These are highlighted on the chart at the top of the chart. The others are allegations which were dismissed due to scope or limited information. And then although the substantiation and sanction decisions related to exam allegations are usually decided by the CEO, some of the cases with greater severity may also be referred to the disciplinary board. Also, most of the allegations in the category that are referred to the disciplinary board are submitted to ABSCA by member firms. If we do receive an allegation directly in ABSCA from an anonymous source, a factory, an auditor, or a collaborative program, we review it to determine if it's credible and if it would be a violation of ABSCA's code. Those allegations will be referred to the associated member firm. The firm is expected to conduct a thorough and credible investigation based on ABSCA's requirements and provide ABSCA with the results. So the first part of the process is a member firm receiving an allegation of misconduct which may violate ABSCA's code. The source of the allegation may be the same as if we got it directly, which would be a client, a factory, a collaborative program, another auditor, or an anonymous reporter. And based on the ABSCA disciplinary procedure, the member firm is expected to conduct an investigation based on ABSCA guidelines. These are the investigation expectations as outlined in the ABSCA Code for Member Firms investigating an allegation of misconduct. First, the firm needs to ensure that the investigation is consistent, it's fair, it's credible, and that it avoids conflict of interest. The firm should make certain that they provide the subject of an investigation an opportunity to be heard. When the misconduct is substantiated, the firm is expected to take the appropriate disciplinary action. And finally, the firm informs ABSCA no later than 45 days after a member auditor has been disciplined by completing the Notice of Disciplinary Action form. And once ABSCA has received the report, the firm should expect to respond to inquiries from ABSCA for clarification, additional information, and sometimes additional evidence. As mentioned on the previous slide, member firms are required to complete the Notice of Disciplinary Action of ABSCA member auditors when they have taken disciplinary action as a result of misconduct which may violate the ABSCA code. The form provides ABSCA with details of the allegation, the investigation, supporting evidence, and the member firm conclusion. This form should also be filled out if the auditor resigns during the investigation. In this situation, we expect the member firm to complete the investigation, and ABSCA may decide to take the case to the disciplinary board to review for possible ABSCA sanction, even if the member firm was not able to take disciplinary action. And note that we don't require the member firm to reveal the name of the facility or the name of the reporter to ABSCA on this report. After the member firm submits the details of the investigation and evidence, ABSCA will work with the member firm to make sure all information is clear and complete and may ask for additional evidence. Once ABSCA has a full understanding, we will send what's called a rights and process letter to notify the auditor of the allegation. The letter includes details of the allegation, the information that the member firm has provided to us, the member firm conclusion, and the possible code violation. We make sure the auditor understands the disciplinary process and the possible impact on their ABSCA membership status, and we request a response from them within 30 days. This is the auditor's chance to tell their side of the story, to provide more information, or to send evidence which may not have been provided to the member firm. After receiving the response from the auditor, we will continue to communicate with the auditor to clarify their response and fully understand the auditor's position. Note that in most cases, ABSCA does not extend the investigation beyond the information provided by the member firm and the auditor. However, if we feel it's necessary in certain cases, we may choose to conduct an independent investigation. Once we have sufficient information and evidence on the case, we will prepare a case report specifically for review by the Disciplinary Board for member auditors. The information in the report does not identify the member firm, the auditor, the reporter, or the name of the people interviewed. The report provides the details of the case in a consistent and standardized format and reports data and member firm evidence without a point of view. The Disciplinary Board for member auditors then meets to discuss and act on the case. The board will review the allegation that a member auditor has violated a section of ABSCA's code. If they substantiate the allegation based on the evidence provided, they will then decide on an appropriate sanction. When considering the sanction, previous cases with a similar allegation are reviewed to maintain consistency in the decisions that the board are making. The board will decide on a written warning, demotion, suspension, or membership revocation. Once the board has decided on a sanction, the next step is notification. And it's important to note that the board is limited to actions that impact ABSCA membership status only, not things like continued employment with the member firm. ABSCA first notifies the member auditor of the board's decision. This includes whether or not the allegation was substantiated, and if so, the resulting sanction. ABSCA also explains to the auditor the impact of the sanction on their ABSCA membership status. The communication from ABSCA will also provide information on the right to petition for an appeal of the disciplinary board decision. This requires the auditors to submit the grounds on which they're appealing the decision, and we must receive it within 45 days. Member firms associated with the auditor are also notified of the board decision and any applicable sanction. As I stated in the previous slide, the appeals board will consider cases when a member auditor submits a petition for appeal within 45 days with clearly stated grounds to request a review of the decision made by the disciplinary board. If the case is reviewed by the appeals board, they will consider the same case report which was provided to the disciplinary board, and additionally the grounds for appeal provided by the auditor. After considering the case, the appeals board will decide whether the original decision should be overturned or not. If the disciplinary board decision is overturned, the appeals board may have decided that the allegation was not substantiated or may amend the original sanction for a substantiated allegation. Remember that, just as an update, remember that ethical behavior extends beyond a social compliance audit, meaning that allegations of misconduct that are observed during other types of audits, such as quality audits, a CT-PAD audit, ISO 9000, or other services, may be reported to a member firm or ABSCA and handled in the same way. We want you to know that in the near future, the list of auditors with the status of not in good standing will be available to member firms who agree to use the information only for employment and assignment decisions, and to only share the list with their employees who need the information in connection with those decisions. This document will not be made available for distribution. Remember that the code also requires you to report behaviors which are potential violations of the ABSCA code that you witness to your member firm or to ABSCA. And if you're unsure of whether a behavior that you view falls under this classification, contact us for clarification. When you discipline an auditor for a possible violation of the ABSCA code, Remember, member firms, to complete and send the notice of disciplinary form to ABSCA at ethics@theabsca.org within 45 days of the disciplinary action. The other thing that I wanted to remind you of is that it is time for member firms to prepare for completing their 2020 Ethics and Integrity Annual Report for ABSCA. To simplify the process and make the information more meaningful to ABSCA and our members, we've developed a questionnaire for you to complete. And a copy of the 15 questions will be provided to you within the next week so that you can start to prepare the data in anticipation of receiving the link for the online questionnaire in early January. And lastly, as a reminder, there continues to be an issue with assigning independent audits to ASCA auditors or assigning ASCA auditors to the lead auditor role. To reduce the incidence of these violations of the ABSCA code, we ask that member auditors alert their member firm of any status change and that member firms check the ABSCA website before assigning audits. This concludes the Ethics and Integrity presentation. As we look forward to 2021, ABSCA will continue to focus on continual improvements to our Ethics and Integrity program, and we encourage ABSCA member firms to let us know how we can support their own ethics program. If there are any questions about this presentation or about our program, please contact us at ethics@theabsca.org. Thank you very much.